Hey everybody, welcome back to Inkplay Quest. Today we will be reviewing all of the Emerald cards in Azurite Sea for Cube. Now remember, I use a tier system. A's are clearly powerful cards. They're in the top 10% of their color. B's might get there. I'm happy to try them out in my cube. C's are marginal, have sort of replaceable effects. Only happy to put these in if they're replacing a very weak, underpowered card in my cube. D's are too weak or too narrow, either understated or too narrow of an archetype to work in a cube environment. And vanillas are cards that have no effects or just like one keyword effect, so just rush, just evasive. And we're starting off with the vanillas in Emerald in this set, and there are 7. Yeah, none of these really stand out. I mean, the 3-cost, 3/2 evasive inkable is always just a decent character. Deals with evasive threats pretty well, but almost always gets banished itself. Olivia Flaversham, the 2-cost uninkable 1/1 quest for 3. This is just a functional reprint of Pinocchio and Simba. I think this card is ambitious, to say the least. I don't find this 2-cost, 3 quest are working out too much in cube for me, but yeah, let's move on to the nice cards. And first up we have Stitch Little Trickster. He's a 2-cost inkable 1/3 that quests for 1, and he has a repeatable effect for 1 ink. This character gets +1 strength this turn. This card is a B. I'm excited to try him out. I think the repeatable effects that are on a lot of cards in this set are exciting for cube. I think these are fun to try out. He can come down on turn 3. He can attack as a 4/3, or come down on turn 2, attack as a 4/3 on turn 3. It's pretty nice. I mean, this can really go crazy in the later turns if you don't have anything else to spend your ink on. Just a pretty interesting upside card with really low downside. Totally happy with a B for Stitch. Jasmine Royal Seafarer, 3-cost inkable character, 2/3 that quests for 1. When you play this character, choose one. Either exert chosen damage character or chosen opposing character gains reckless during the next turn. I think these kinds of flexible cards are pretty nice. In cube, you want your characters to be doing stuff when they come into play, and I think these are 2 interesting effects, so I'm going to give Jasmine a B also. I think she's a little weaker necessarily, or maybe than Stitch, even though her stats are just a tiny bit better. Reckless is nice. I mean, you can, use this offensively by giving their weak, high questing things reckless, so they have to challenge and basically die. Exerting damage characters is okay. I think it's less strong than just or it's less flexible, obviously, than exerting any character, but also can be used offensively. Yeah, B for Jasmine. Captain Hook Underhanded. He's a 3-cost inkable 1/4 that quests for 2. While he's exerted, opposing pirate characters can't quest, and whenever this character is challenged, draw a card. Pretty interesting take on the character that draws a card when he's played. So obviously not. This character doesn't draw a card when he's played, but Captain Hook draws when he's challenged. So you're probably going to draw 1 off of this, but you sometimes can draw 2. I mean, this is a questing threat with enough willpower that it probably is going to survive from most challenging threats at the 2 or 3 cost. So I think this is a pretty interesting character, even not considering its first line of text. Opposing pirates can't quest. That might have some interesting upside. So I think this is also a B. Pretty good start for Emerald in just the sort of B range. Well, here it ends. 4-cost, or this is Stitch Alien Buccaneer. He's a 4-cost uninkable 3/4 that quests for 2. Pretty, decent stats, but uninkable is a little annoying. He has Shift 3, Floodborn Hero Alien Pirate. All pretty good keywords. When you play this character, if you used Shift to play him, you may put an action card from your discard on top of your deck. So, putting cards to top of deck is card disadvantage, right? You don't have immediate access to the card, and you can only get that effect if you Shift Stitch, which is card disadvantage. So if you just play this on turn 3, shifting it onto your 1 or 2-cost Stitch, you're probably not going to have an action to put on top of your deck. I guess you could have like a Develop Your Brain if you played that on 1 and Stitch on 2 and Shift on 3. I don't know. I think this is a C. I think that the flexibility of being able to reuse an action, albeit a turn later, is kind of cool, but 4-cost uninkable, only goes off when you shift, so it's naturally just card disadvantage. I'm going to keep him at a C. Cool, could be cool for a, themed alien or pirate cube, but not for me, probably. All right. Go to Mago. 2-cost, inkable, 2/2, quest for 1 with evasive. And one of the coolest abilities we've ever seen in Lorcana, Stop Whining Woman Up. When you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to gain lore equal to the damage on chosen opposing character. Storyborn Hero Inventor. I think this card has a chance to be sort of a top 5 card in all of Lorcana. And let me explain why. So obviously I'm going to give it an A. For the longest time, Goat was sort of the pinnacle of surprise lore gain without having a character in play to quest, right? You would get 1 or 3 if you had sort of the nuts Goat, Snake, Goat for 10 ink. This card can get 2 extra ink when you play her for 4 ink. She can get 5 extra lore when you play her for 4 ink. You could go all the way up to 7 or 8 lore all at once just for 4 ink. And this is on an inkable 2-cost character that quests for 1 but is evasive. Like, this character, the absolute rock bottom downside of this character is a pretty good evasive character that quests for 1 if you get her down early and she can quest a couple times, or she's just like potentially the biggest upside surprise swingy card in the entire game. I think this is a slam dunk A, probably my favorite card in the entire set, potentially top 5 card in all of Lorcana. Maybe I'm overrating her, but this just seems crazy for 4 ink. So go Tamago, slam dunk A, favorite card I've seen in this set so far. Honey Lemon Chemical Genius, 2-cost inkable character, 1/1 that quests for 2. When you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to have each opponent choose and discard a card. So this is like a slightly more flexible but weaker on stats version of the 4-cost Amber Daisy Duck that comes in and makes your opponent discard a card. I think she's fine. 2-cost 2 questers, generally fine. With some upside on player out on 4, but 1/1 is just so weak. I think she's a C, but on the higher end of C. I may fit her in. I think there are a lot of good 2-cost Emerald characters, so I'm not quite sure she fits the bill here. Like, I think I'd rather have Enchantress, because Enchantress kind of always trades for something. When you play out on turn 2, this sort of is only going to be card parity if you play her on turn 4. Yeah, C. Fred, mascot by day, 1-cost inkable, 1/1 that quests for 1. Whenever this character is challenged, gain 2 lore. Interesting character. So basically he's always going to get you 3 lore, or, require an action to deal with him. I think that's pretty good. I think for a 1-cost character, getting 3 lore out of it is right above the rate. I'm using sort of like the 2-cost action that gets you 2 lore is sort of the base rate for getting lore. 1 card equals 2 lore. So I think this is pretty good. I think he's a B. I think he'll replace definitely a vanilla 1-cost in my cube. I can't quite think of any way to get him to get 2 lore multiple times. Almost always he's going to get banished when an opponent challenges him, but getting 3 lore out of your 1-cost character, that is pretty good with me. So Fred gets a B. Donald Duck First Mate, 3-cost inkable character, 2/3 that quests for 1. While you have a captain in play, this character quests for 2 additional lore. This is pretty bad. Requires a captain. There are a decent number of captains in Lorcana, but he is both understated in the strength department and the lore department until you have a captain in play. I think it's just a D. Yeah, I don't think there's much upside here. Even if you have a 3-cost, even if you have a captain in play, it's just 1 strength worse than like Caterpillar or the new Magic Carpet. So it's like almost the same as a vanilla 3-cost character that quests for 3. So, yeah, D. Daisy Duck Pirate Captain, 4-cost inkable, 3/3 that quests for 2. Another pirate payoff, but I think it's slightly different, so I'm going to rate her a little higher. Whenever one of your pirate characters quests, while at a location, draw a card. So not one of your other pirate characters, one of your pirate characters. So that includes her. So I'm going to give her a C. She's still overcosted for her stat line, so she's 4 cost for a 3/3 quest for 2. But if you put her in a location and she quests, you draw a card. That's pretty good. I still think she's worse than other of the draw a card characters. Like, this is just so much worse than Genie, the new evasive Genie in Amethyst. You have the upside, the very high upside case of having multiple pirates questing at the same location, but I don't think that's going to happen very often in Cube, so I'm going to give her a C. Jasmine, Royal Commodore, 6 cost Inkable, 5/5 that quests for 2. She is Floodborn and she has Shift 5. When you play this character, if you use Shift to play her, return all other exerted characters to their player's hands. I think this is a B because the upside case is very high. The stats are fine. So, obviously this is 1 cost more, 1 ink more than like a vanilla 5/5 quest for 2 card soldiers, honey wizard kind of card. I think the difference between 5 and 6 and say 2 and 3 is less when you go sort of up the ink scale. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but I think that it's still pretty good stats. Doesn't die to Medusa, doesn't die to most things except Along Came Zeus. And the upside for shifting her is quite good. Yeah, I think this is on the lower end of B, but probably will try to fit it into my cube. I think there are some... Emerald has a lot of like weird, expensive characters that aren't that good, so this is, you know, decent effect for this. And getting this down on turn 5 can just kind of blow out your opponent, so I'll give her a B. Peter Pan Neverland Prankster, 7 cost 4/6 that only quest for 1. This character enters play exerted. While this character is exerted, each opposing player can't gain lore unless one of their characters has challenged this turn. An interesting card. I think its stats are so low. You know, pretty bad strength, fine willpower, but only questing for 1. I mean, I guess the joke with this card is like you play him, he's exerted, and sort of your opponent has to crash something into your Peter Pan, probably losing that character before they can quest. But like Maui eats this without dying and then couldn't quest anyway, so it's like Maui just destroys this character. I think it's a C. It's not unplayable, but I don't think I'm going to be trying to slot this into my cube. Maybe if it was Floodborn and could shift? I don't know. Hercules, Baby Demigod, 6 cost uninkable 6/3 ward. Quest for 2. Its repeatable effect is pay 3 ink, deal 1 damage to chosen damaged character. I think this might be a D. It's 6 cost uninkable. To get anything the turn it enters, you have to have 9 ink available. It's not Floodborn, you can't shift it. Yeah, I mean, being able to do repeated damage with ink is cool, but like 3 for 1, and it can only be to a damaged character. I think this should have either been just deal 1 damage to chosen character or 2 ink to deal 1 to chosen damage character. Ward's nice, it's like strength is nice, but like this dies to, no it doesn't because it has ward. Yeah, no, D. I'm not putting him in my cube. Alistar Cray, Ambitious Entrepreneur, 3 cost inkable character, 2/4 that quests for 1. When you play this character, if an opponent has an item in play, gain 1 lore. So it's like a much worse version of the White Rose from Amethyst. I think it's probably a C. This is, you know, not going to go off that often, and when it does, I think I'd rather just be banishing my opponent's item than gaining 1 lore. Like, Benja, I think, is just way better than this card. Even though it's a Benja quest for more lore, so if you get, you know, 1 extra quest out of Benja, you're already up. Yeah, I think he's a C. Fine, but not great. Gazelle, Angel with Horns, is a 2 cost inkable 1/2 the quest for 1. When you play this character, chosen character gains evasive until the start of your next turn. So we have a lot of characters that give themselves evasive on your turn. The rate for that would be like a 2 cost 3/2 or 2 cost 2/3. This gives another chosen character evasive till the start of your next turn, so you can use it defensively. You can quest out with your Cursed Merfolk or Lilo and not worry about them getting bodied by like a Captain Hook. I think that's pretty good. I think she's a B. Yeah, man, this 2 cost character in Emerald slot is pretty contested with pretty decent characters. I might have to add like 2 or 3 from this set, maybe 3. All right, another great one. Goofy Expert Shipwright, 5 cost Inkable 1/4, quest for 3 with Ward. And then whenever this character quests, chosen character gains Ward until the start of your next turn. I think this is an A. I think this is similar to the 5 cost Cusco from the first set, but this is Inkable. And you give somebody something else Ward. You don't necessarily get the 1/1 when a character challenges in and banishes Cusco. Goofy's almost never going to banish the character that challenges in and takes it out. But imagine questing with this, playing this on 5, playing a 6 cost character that quests for, 4, or like a Bell or something really strong that you want to live and then turn sideways, and then quest with this, gain 3 lore, give the other character Ward. I think it's a very strong ability, plus the stats. 4 willpower is pretty nice. 1 strength, obviously, it can get got by Medusa or the small Sisu, but, well, no, it can't get caught by either of this because it has Ward. That's awesome. All right, Goofy, Expert Shipwright, A. Bellwether Assistant Mayor, 3 cost uninkable character, 2/3 that quests for 1. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, chosen opposing character gains Reckless during their next turn. So this is this entry in the cycle of whenever a card is put into your inkwell. I think that's pretty powerful, right? This just shuts down 1 quester every turn, either starting on the turn you play Bellwether if you play her on turn 4, or every turn going forward. I mean, this can just kind of... It not only stops them from questing, but it requires them to challenge. So if they have a weak, fragile quester, like this, probably hitting Merfolk is really nice, because Merfolk will just challenge into something and yeet itself without having the discard effect. So I think this is pretty good. This is a B for me. Basil, Disguised Detective, 6 cost Inkable 4/5, quests for 2. It has Floodborns and has Shift 4. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may pay 1 ink to have chosen opponent choose and discard a card. I mean, it's a cool effect, but think about when this is coming down, right? This either comes down on turn 6, so you have to have 7 in your inkwell to get it on the turn it's played, in which case your opponent is likely to have an empty hand or close to an empty hand. I guess hitting their last play is pretty nice if they're, holding a B-Prep or Medusa, whatever. It's kind of nice, but understated for that. For paying 7 ink, 4/5, quest for 2, and a discard, it's fine. Playing this on 4, there's not a lot of good Basils in the queue right now, is there? No, I don't think so. It's just fine. I think it's a C. I would rather put other big characters in my cube. Bend to My Will, 7 cost uninkable action. Each opponent discards all cards in their hand. Okay, so I think there's been some discussion of this card online in terms of discard just being kind of a menace in Lorcana in Constructed. I think this is kind of a cool card. I think it is probably only good if you are turboing this out on turn 4, which you can do in a few ways. You can do in a ramp character action on turn 2. You play Iago, which lets you play an action for 2 less on your when it quests. So on turn 4, you quest with your Iago, play this. Yeah, I don't know. It's a C. I'm not willing to make this a D just because the potential for a blowout is pretty high. But it's certainly not not easily slot inable to any deck. So I'll keep it at C. Prepare to board, 1 cost action, inkable. Chosen character gets +2 strength this turn. If a pirate character is chosen, they get +3 strength instead. This is a D. This is only a 1 cost removal action. If you have a character that has a lot of willpower and survives a challenge against something, and I don't know, I don't think that's good enough. Yeah, no, I think this is just a D. Not gonna put this in my cube. Heffalumps and Woozles, 2-cost inkable song. Chosen opposing character can't quest during the next turn, draw a card. So it doesn't give Reckless, so their character does not have to challenge in and yeet itself, but you get to draw a card. I think this is pretty good. I think it's a B. Any song that's inkable and can be sung by Ursula, Deceiver of All, I am looking at. Any song that draws a card, I am looking at. So I think this is a pretty interesting mix of those. I'm trying to think if that's even like, I guess it sets them back pretty far in lore if you double sing this. You draw 2, they can't quest with 2 of their things, but then they probably just challenge in and kill your Ursula. I don't know. I think this is a fine cantrip, and it's inkable. I'm giving this a B and probably try to slot it in my cube. Mosquito Bite. 1-cost inkable action. Put 1 damage counter on chosen character. I think this is a C. It's not quite unplayable, but 1-cost, deal 1 that gets around resist. It's interesting. This is almost never going to be the deciding. I mean, this deals 1 damage. No, yeah, this is a C. This is marginal. Getting around resist 1 is fine. Or resist any amount is fine, but there aren't very many characters that have like 1 willpower and a really high resist. That'd be kind of a cool edge case for this, taking out, resist 6 or something. But I think we're not quite there where this is going to be super useful, but cool design. You Came Back. 3-cost uninkable action, ready chosen character. No restriction on questing. Most of these actions say ready chosen character. They can't quest, for the remainder of your turn or whatever. So the only I've thought of 2 ways of making this like to its maximum, and that is questing with a 5 questing character. So this is basically just 3 ink and a card to get 5 lore. Seems good. Or specifically questing with the Ruby Robin Hood that gets an action, or that mills forward gets an action of those. That's kind of fun, like 3-card combo with Robin Hood and then some actions. But I think this is C. This is like not exactly what I want to be doing with a card and 3 ink and uninkable. But I guess if you have like, a 5-cost, probably not Mirabelle, but like the 5 questing, I don't know, Belle or the Ariel that has ward and quest for 5 when you have an item. It would be fine, but I think in most decks this is kind of bad. I'll give it a C. Megabot, 2-cost uninkable item. This item enters play exerted. Exert it and banish this item. Choose 1. Banish chosen item or banish chosen damaged character. This is an A. This is awesome. I think this kind of an item is really cool, especially if you can like recur it, because you can just play this out on turn 2 if you don't have a turn 2 play. Leave it on your side of the field until you need it, and if they play, that basically really pressures them to never leave up a damaged character and never play a really big splashy item. Like this just destroys Lucky Dime. This makes your opponent have to think really hard about playing in a way that keeps damage on any character, because you can just pop the Megabot whenever you want. I think this is a really powerful effect for only 2 ink, and there's a lot of item synergies in the game right now. Still trying to figure out where I'm landing on my cube for how much of an item deck to support, because items can be really bad if not properly supported. So we'll see, but I think this is still a slam dunk A for a card. Galactic Communicator, 2-cost uninkable item. Pay 1 ink and banish this item to return chosen character with 2 power or less to their 2 strength or less to their player's hand. So this is just worse. This is just worse Mother Knows Best, or like Cloud Kicker but without the character. I think this is a D. I mean, I guess I get you're playing it on turn 2 and then maybe you can only spend 1 ink later, but you're still paying 3 total ink to return a character to their player's hand. I think this is bad. Don't play this card. Transport Pod, 1-cost inkable item. At the start of your turn, you may move a character of yours to a location for free. Okay, so this is the Pirate set. This is the Inventor's set. But this is also kind of like the Locations Get Better set. Like there are a lot of interesting locations and better location payoffs, especially in subsequent colors. So I think I'm going to give this a B. Extremely low cost. You play this on 1. It feels really bad if your opponent has to like spend resources to banish this, because your 1 cost, you're always going to trade up in ink. There's no like 1 cost thing that banishes an item, I don't think. So you're always trading up in ink if they need to banish this, and you have the chance for an absolute like blowout with Sugar Rush, Speedway, or other like crazy locations. I think this is quite good in the location deck. I'm gonna put it in my cube, see if it works. Oops, I just oh well, it's gonna be the wrong way. My bad. 3 cost inkable location. This is Perilous Maze, Watery Labyrinth, a move cost of 1 and willpower of 8. Whenever a character is challenged while here, each opponent chooses and discards a card, and it ticks up for 1 lore every turn. It's a bummer, because I think this is pretty good. I think there is a dearth of 3 cost locations that matter in Lorcana right now. The only one that I can think of is none of them. I mean, Agrabah ticks up for 2 every turn, but it has 5 willpower. I think this is a good balance between it still gains lore, so it's not just a utility location. It has 8 willpower, so it's hard to kill on turn 4. And it has a move cost of 1 that has a relevant ability that it adds to your characters, because you can put your aggressive quest threats here for cheap, and then your opponent has to discard or try to take the location out. I think this is a great design for a relatively modest location. This is a B. I'm going to put it in my cube. This one I think is a D. It's a 3 cost uninkable location. This is Owl Island, Secluded Entrance. Willpower of 6, move cost of 1. For each character you have here, you may pay 1 less for the first action you play each turn, and then whenever you play a second action in a turn, gain 3 lore. The like double action deck is not really a thing in my cube, or probably most people's cubes. And this only cost reduces for the first action, and you have to put a lot of characters here, maybe to make them free. There's probably a way to break this. I can't think of it. I don't think it's that good. Don't put it in your cube. I mean, you can put it in your cube if you want to. I'm not putting it in my cube. This is a D. Okay, so that is Emerald. Emerald's kind of interesting. I think it lacks a little bit of the really, really high top end that we saw with Amber, well, especially with Amethyst. But there are a lot of like solid B level cards that I'm going to try out in my cube, and potentially the best card in the game. I think Go-Go Tamago has a chance to be just like an absolute stone cold menace, because it just changes the way you have to play the game. Because if you leave your large questing threat exerted, or no, if you leave your any character on the field with damage on it, you have to always worry about, oh man, they could drop a Go-Go Tamago for 4 and gain 5 lore or whatever. That just seems like a crazy thing to. And she's still a questing threat that will be in play after that. So it's like, I think that changes how people are going to approach the end game of Lorcana, and I think that's awesome. And I'm very excited for a lot of these cards. Next up, we'll be reviewing Ruby, and I hope this video helped you out think through some of these Emerald cards. Let me know what you think I got right, what you think I was way off on, and I will see you next time. Bye.